When a founder, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, right, starts their business and they're really engaged, they're pouring their heart and their soul into their work. They get to a point where they recognize that there's only one of them and they only have so many hours in the day. And there's only so many things that they can actually do. At that point, they're going to hit a wall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am so happy today. We have a special guest, is Scott, and he is a growth strategist who helps companies scale, optimize costs, and expand globally through a hands-on personalized outsourcing framework. I think he is able to tell us more about him and about his activities, and of course, about his new podcast, which I'm hoping that he will mention. Hi, Scott. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Nico, I am so happy to be here with you today. Thank you so much. And you know what? I am just so excited to talk to you, and I'm more than happy to talk about the new podcast.
I've listened to some episodes, and I honestly say I really like it. And
Thank you.
maybe you can explain why the short form and not the long form.
Sure. So, I have a long form podcast that's called The Outsourcing Blueprint, and that's where I come in and interview business owners, and we talk about their business and we talk about the things that they're building, and we talk about how outsourcing plays a role. We also talk about the impact of outsourcing, all the ups and downs, goods and bads, and the ins and outs of outsourcing. But this other one is very different. It's called The Inner Strategy, a Stoic Blueprint Behind Bold Leadership. So I am a huge fan of Stoicism and some of the concepts that Stoicism teaches. And so things like, controlling what you can control, recognizing that your time on earth is limited, that, we will all at some point die, and that we ought to keep that at the forefront of our mind so that it can inform our day-to-day decisions and the actions that we choose to take. Well, I love that. I love the concepts. And I thought, there's got to be a good blend to include Stoic principles and business ideas and concepts at the same time. And so I thought, what better way to do it than a little podcast? And since I started podcasting, I've wanted to do a short form podcast because I love them, because you can get little snacks, little snippets of just an idea to kickstart somebody's day or to keep them going partway through the day or whatever. I just love the idea that, we can do something that is short and sweet and it's fun.
The topic today is about smart outsourcing and how we can have, because of the smart outsourcing, we can have a global growth and we can have a rapid global growth. So you are the expert in this topic. What would you say is your definition for smart outsourcing, and how does it differ from traditional vendor-based models?
To me, smart outsourcing really equates to making intelligent decisions that match up with your needs. Don't force it. Don't do something that you shouldn't do just for the sake of doing it, if that makes sense. Well, I want to outsource because, everybody's doing it. Well, yeah, everybody is doing it, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing for you or for your business or for your clients. And so you have to really look at what is going to bring your business value, what is going to bring your customers value, and make sure that it's in alignment with your overall strategy. Because if it's not going to work effectively.
Yeah. So are you addressing only to small companies or medium companies or very large companies?
I mean, everyone can utilize a little bit of outsourcing, right? So I Small, large, if a company is small, oftentimes, and my favorite example of this, Nico, is, when let's say a founder, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, right, starts their business and they're really engaged, they're pouring their heart and their soul into their work. They get to a point where they recognize that there's only one of them and they only have so many hours in the day. And there's only so many things that they can actually do. At that point, they're going to hit a wall. You can only generate so much revenue because you only have so many hours in the day and there's only one of you. At that point, a small business, an entrepreneur needs to outsource something to somebody, whether it is, part of the service that they're offering, or it's their customer support, or they hire a virtual assistant. They need somebody to allow them to create some additional capacity. The same thing applies for a larger company. So whether it's a one-person show or a mid-size or a larger company, anything that you want to do to scale usually is going to require a change. And oftentimes it makes sense for that change to happen through creating an outsourced team, whether that's a team of one or a cast of thousands. You need to have a team to support whatever it is. So it really fits well for businesses of any size. And I can tell you, I've had the experience of outsourcing for one person, and I've had the experience of building quite literally a cast of thousands in multiple cities to support processes and projects for a large company. It really just depends on what the need is, but it can be utilized for everyone.
Yeah. In the last 20 years, I have been working as a global director. And one of my main tasks every time it was either to develop a new market, either to develop a new business unit. And every time, if this outsourcing is not in place, when you are trying to scale, it's very hard to do.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And oftentimes, so if you do it right, you plan it out, right? And so
Correct.
this is the direction we're going. And to accomplish this goal or this task, these are the steps that we will need to take. Well, oftentimes when companies do that, they don't necessarily take the idea of outsourcing into account, right? They they know they need to do something, but often they try to solve the issues by themselves. They think, we'll use the resources we have. I'm sure we'll come up with a solution. And they usually do come up with a solution. Is it the best solution? Is it the
Probably.
most efficient solution? Probably not. Right. Absolutely.
And probably
So
it will become more expensive at the end of the day to try to do all by yourself.
that's correct. And, so let's not mince words, right? People outsource because they're trying to save cost.
Correct. Yeah.
Almost all the time, almost every outsourcing decision is made around cost and making sure that they're keeping their costs in control. Well, even with outsourcing, costs can get out of hand, right? So you have to manage it to make sure that you keep control of it. But cost is at the forefront of everyone's mind when it comes to outsourced work. But if you plan it right, and I will say this is where I come in. Okay. So, and I will give you an example. So I have a client that I've been working with recently to create a plan for them so that they will be able to maximize their own business offering, right? And to do that, they really are going to need to move part of what they're doing to a different center, which will allow them to outsource whatever they're going to do in their process to that other team to allow them to focus on what their core business is so that they can drive more success and create more capacity for themselves and for their core business. Well, they didn't plan that out when they got started. And they started with trying to figure it out on their own. And fortunately, somebody they were acquainted with, who also was acquainted with me, said, you know who you should talk to? And then they reached out to me and we were able to have a conversation, and I was able to guide him through, well, here's where you're at today, and here's where you really want to be. So if you're going to accomplish that, these are going to be the steps that you have to take. I can help you do that, or you can continue to fight the battles on your own.
Mm.
In my experience, it's easier to let somebody help you, and it's going to save you money in the long run.
So, what would you say are the biggest risks that companies face when outsourcing core functions? And how do you help them to avoid that?
When you outsource a core function, one of the risks that a company really faces is you're taking something that is key, that is fundamental to your offering to your clients, and you're putting it in the hands of a partner.
Right?
Uh, I don't like to call them vendors, but in the hand of a vendor, right? So you have to really think about what that looks like. Does it make sense to send something that is core to this other team? Sometimes yes, sometimes it does. And um, there's a company, and the name of the company escapes me off the top of my head, but that is here in the US, and they decided to move a core function of what they were offering to a team in India. And that decision allowed that company to move that entire process to this other team. They were able to train them, coach them, support them through all of the things that they had to do to make sure that the clients were getting what they needed. And once that was done, they didn't have to worry it. They still worry about it. They still watched over it. They still made sure it was smooth. But then they were able here to add additional core functions because they had the capacity, and now they had the budget to be able to add it because they were saving so much money and time and capacity by outsourcing that core function. But the risk in that was they could lose clients. They could, because they're putting something that was so important to their core functionality, they could create security risks. There was data security risk, there was process security risk, there was so much risk, but for them, the reward dictated that the risk was worth it, right? However, my recommendation 90%, 95% of the time is not to outsource a core function of what you do.
Yeah.
You keep the core, but there are a lot of things that you get caught up in that you have to do in a business that are not necessarily core functions. We often act like they're core functions because they're what we do. And we kind of define ourselves by, look how busy I am. You know, this is especially true of entrepreneurs. Oh, I'm so busy. My calendar's, look, there's so much. Yeah,
Mm.
you're not, right? So you can take some of those things and move them so that they still get done because maybe you are busy, but you don't have to spend your time doing that because it's not your core offering for your client. You're not selling, you're not, providing your service. So you can take those non-core functions like, customer support. I have a question. What do I do about this? Oh,
Yeah.
I really need a manual for my product. Oh, I really need, and you don't have to do any of those things yourself. That's you outsource that non-core function to the team. You save cost, you save time. You get a whole bunch of time back into your schedule. You, as Dan Martell wrote a book, um, buy back your time. You buy back your time by making those decisions and using those smart outsourcing decisions to move things that you don't have to do yourself to somebody else who can do them more cheaply and usually faster and honestly, Nico, better.
As you know, I've just started my own consultant business, Pro Sales, and my target is to work with technical companies. And I think that this scaling and this growing will come up a lot in the future for me because one of my main cores is to align the sales team with the technical teams. But as you said, here support functions because in the high technical products, we all the time need 24 hours support and for small things, not for complicated things. I think that can be easily outsourced. Then, of course, we keep our engineers, we keep our product managers, and we use them in a better way and in a way where it provides and it gives more value to the customer at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that that is absolutely spot on because it's about adding or providing value to the customer at the end of the day, right? I
Right.
want to ask you something that I think I just heard you touch on that just fascinates me about what you do, right? So you're talking technical stuff. You're turning engineers into high performing sellers. And how on earth are you doing that? You've got to have like huge barriers. How do you make that happen? What are some of the barriers that you come across in trying to accomplish that? That's just amazing to me.
Well, in a way, that's how I started. I am an engineer. I have two technical degrees, and I started as an automation engineer. And then sales came afterwards. I discovered through my work that I like talking to people, I like convincing, I like talking to customers, I like to build relations and to provide value. And that's why when I started working, I seen that there are a lot of companies who do not align the sales teams with the technical teams. I'm not saying that we need to transform the technical teams in the sales team. That's far away from what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the sales teams should know when it's the right time to involve the technical team, and the technical teams need to know how to talk in front of the customer, how to bring value, how to uncover new opportunities. Because most of the times, when the technical teams go for a maintenance job, for a service, for any contract, they see a lot of places where the products could be used, and that will create an upsell. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just to go on the both sides, on sales and on technical, to align them to work more efficient together. And of course, the outcome should be to provide more value to the customer and for us as a company to get more revenues. And
So
at the end of the day, this pricing fight that you have, it will not be that heavy, because now you provide more value and the customer will understand where and who should he choose from the full list of competitors.
so it isn't really about turning engineers into salespeople necessarily. It's about aligning the technical and the sales with the customer side to make sure that the customer really gets what they need because everybody on all sides has an understanding of what the goal is, so everybody becomes aligned.
Do you know that there is a study that they saw that if the technical team is brought early in the process in front of the customer, you have 39% more chances to get that project. And if you take the technical teams just at the end of the process, you have 18% chances to get that project. It's a huge gap. And this gap is explained because you gain the trust to customers. I don't know if you've seen this, but every time I worked with this high level technical customers, they were, when they saw that I'm a woman, the first question was, okay, where is your technical guy? And I said, well, I can speak both. And it's a huge advantage for the customer to understand, to see that you can understand his language and you can understand his problems and you can find a way to solve his problems. Because at the end of the day, the customer only cares if you solve his problem. That's it.
I mean, that's true, right? And people are paying for those solutions. They're paying for results.
The sales cycles are bigger and bigger to go in front of the customer with sales and technical, and be able to really convince the customer that you are the right choice, I think it's very powerful.
When you can speak to their problem and when they actually fully understand the solution and what that solution does for them, and you just said this, when you solve their problem and they know what it is, that's when they're going to pull the trigger. They're going to buy because you have solved their problem. One of the first things that I learned when in my first stint when I was living in India for a former employer, I was assigned to build and manage our team there. It was aligning our team to the end client. And it's really the same concept of connecting from all the way through, from the client to the salesperson, to the service person, to the production team, all the way. I mean, right down to the person, on the computer that was, because it was financial data and information communication. So the person that was keyboarding, right, processing the requests, our goal was to have them understand the client request and the client need and expectation. And when we were able to align that and really connect them, our productivity skyrocketed. I mean, it absolutely boomed. And we gave better service than anybody else in the industry at that point in time because the people that were doing the work understood what the client need was. Well, it's the same thing, right? And I think we're really kind of saying the same thing. You get the technical people to understand what the client need is and what that result needs to look like. You connect those two, you align them, boom. That's where you get your difference between 18 and 39%.
From strategical point of view, you need to take some direction because you need to support this alignment. You need to change a little bit the KPIs, you need to change the performance. You will get better visibility on your possible revenues, on your order intake, on the upsell that you are able to do in the future. And all that will create value to you and to your team.
What made you decide that this is what you wanted to focus on for your business? Because it sounds powerful to me.
Is because I've seen the need in the market. There are very few companies who really know how to do a value proposition for the different stakeholders. In these long sales cycles, we have multiple stakeholders. You need to be able to talk to the electrician, you need to be able to talk to the technical manager, you need to be able to talk to executives, you need to be able to talk to finance. Then if you are so disrupted, then you are not able to anticipate what other features that customer will want in 6 months, or maybe they already want 6 months ago to have new features that you cannot offer. And this alignment should be, of course, you go with the tech guy in front of the customer, but then you need to keep that relation, you need to keep that row of information and to be kept in the loop. And when is the win? It's a double win. It's a win for me as a sales and it's a win for you as a tech. I'm not taking the reward, we are splitting it together. And for that one, the company is growing and it gets larger opportunities.
Well, and the client wins.
And the client gets
Yeah.
more value from the
Yeah.
company, for sure. If we are thinking of the new trends, what are some of the new trends in outsourcing? What are the big things that are
Yeah.
coming?
Yeah. So I think that AI is going to reshape a lot of things that we don't necessarily even know. It's going to get to the point that when you're having a sales conversation, at least that initial qualifying conversation, you're probably talking to something that is AI or that is AI related, right? So I'm seeing a lot of people start to outsource part of their sales process to an AI agent or an AI phone representative. The problem is that I think we're a little bit on the front end of that technology and we're moving quickly to try to adopt it, but it's not fully ready. That's just one area. But, when we're talking about automating and, changing workflows, reshaping how things go, I think that AI is going to play a huge role in outsourcing. I think we're going to be able to automate that a lot. But what I see coming is I think that companies are still going to need uh, support on their processes. You're going to still need people to be involved, but the people will have tools that will make them more efficient, more effective. So it's possible that you might need to actually outsource to a third party company, like to a group of people, less often,
Hmm.
right? You might be able to just say, okay, so for example, software or website creation. You can go into an AI tool today. They will give you code that you can copy and paste into a website, and it can even just build it out for you. I did this the other day for my Inner Strategy podcast, just because I was playing around. I was like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to have a dedicated website for this. I said, hey, can you help me create this? And ChatGPT gave me the code and said, yeah, and here's where you'll build it. Oh, just go and open an account with this company. It's free, and drop the code in there, and your website will be live. And it took me about a minute and a half.
Also studying how sales activities can be improved by using AI and making presentations, putting manuals and having everything in one place. Creating manuals, it takes like
Yes.
what you worked before to create a book or a guide, or you worked for weeks and weeks. Now you can do it maybe in 1, 2 days.
Automakers, for example, went to robotic
Mm.
production, not for every little thing that they do. Still, when they make vehicles today, everything is not completely robotic, but there is a huge percentage of the process of construction of any vehicle that is done by robots, right? But you still have manual human intervention at certain stages because you need to. You have to make sure that the quality is, supposed to be what it is. And there are just some things that aren't done on a robotic level. AI is transforming the landscape for everybody. And at some point, a lot of things are going to be automated. You just talked about like manuals. It used to take forever to put a manual, a process manual, all of that stuff together. Well, you should still look at it. Okay. So when you have content, for example, that's created by an AI tool, you better put your eyes on it because it's probably going to come up with something that isn't necessarily representative of either the true
Yeah,
process.
of course. And then it leaves us time to focus on things that really matter and that really create a difference.
Yes, well, and it can let you focus on quality and accuracy
Correct.
because it's taking the heavy lift away from you and doing that for you. But then you still need to look at it, QA, make sure that everything really does align with what you've been trying to get it to do. You have to be careful because AI will hallucinate, right? And it will come up with things. One of my favorite stories, I was asking a question about a medicine. I wanted to know more information about a certain medication. And I was asking it on my phone. And, usually it thinks for a second and then it comes back with all this information. Well, this time it like stuttered. I asked it and it was like, well, mm, mm, mm. And it took about 5 minutes for it to put 20 different bullet points down. And I thought, well, that's really strange. But I let it do its thing. And Nico, it gave me an absolutely beautiful concept for something that I hadn't even considered as an option, as an offering for my business. And I wasn't even asking it about that, but it made me go, okay, I'm keeping this one for me because I think this is brilliant. And I haven't plugged it in yet. It is still brilliant. I have to figure out exactly how to plug it in. But it hallucinated this completely random,
Mm.
weird thing. And so you have to be wise. That trend alone is going to change the nature of what we have to outsource and how much of it we have to outsource and even where we put it. But if you think about putting, AI and automation tools in the hands of these teams that already do amazing work, it's gonna be disruptive. It's gonna displace more people, but it's also going to create more opportunity. And that's kind of the future trend of what I see happening is more opportunity, more displacement, and a complete shift in how we work.
I've been working on all five continents, and I'm just wondering how this cultural differences affect outsourcing.
That's one of the bigger difficulties. What I do is, so I'm an India specialist, right? When somebody's going to work with an Indian team, I give them cultural competency training. I walk them through proper behaviors, things to do, things not to do. I give very pointed, direct counsel when it comes to cultural competency in that area, but also little things like you want to be careful, maybe don't get ice in your drink. Or if you're getting if you're going to drink a soda, for example, make sure that it's bottled and not just coming from the soda fountain because that
Yeah.
water is not necessarily processed properly. And bacteria, everywhere you go, the bacteria is different. And the last thing you want to do when you travel is to get sick. I walk people through all of little examples like that. Some of them are very personal for me. Some of them are from my work experience, and some of them are just kind of general. I teach them things to do, things not to do. And then we talk about interactions and we talk about how to interact and communicate effectively. We talk about what the head bobble is, what that actually means, so that when they come into the situation, it's not a joke and
Yeah.
it's not something that they have to really stress about. They're going to understand when somebody does that, what they're talking about and what that little gesture really intends. So I teach people when they go to work with a team, whatever country they're in, that the situation and circumstance is not about them. It's not about you. It's about the team that you're working with, right? And I work on building a cultural relationship to bridge any differences. And Nico, I promise you it's going to be rough. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to do it the wrong way. They're going to say an insensitive thing completely accidentally. Been there and done that. And
Yeah, me too.
you just, as a person, you just act like a person. You apologize when you need to.
Mm.
You work toward making sure that you have better communication. But what I do is I kind of stay in the middle of that relationship. So, because even the people on the other side, let's say on the Indian side, again, India specialist, right? So on the Indian side, when somebody's outsourcing there, I will work with the team in India to help them understand the cultural need of the person that's coming in. It's not just one way. It's important that everybody's able to meet in the middle. And then I help when things aren't going well to
Mm.
smooth them out and bridge them together so that they can really come together and work as a team the way that they're supposed to. And it takes time. It takes a little bit of practice. It is always hard. It's always rough. But I have never once regretted having those cultural conversations because when you go to a place like India, or anywhere in the world, you're going to have some kind of culture shock, and some places are going to rock you to your core with
Mm.
the things that you will see and taste and smell and hear and feel. And so it's going to take time to process it, and people need to be prepared for those.
Right.
All of those that I classify as cultural differences. Right. And you can ask me anytime.
Do you have any tools or platforms that you are offering or that you are suggesting for the customers to use?
Yeah, so everybody needs a solid project management tool. Whatever it is that you're going to use, you need something to be able to, and there are a lot of tools out there that,
Mm.
function as a project management tool, but it needs to be, so if you're using, for example, Trello or Asana, right? It doesn't really matter to me. It needs to be whatever is comfortable for use between the teams because you need to be able to track beginning to end. Honestly, Nico, even if you're using a spreadsheet, whatever is going to work for you
Mm.
is going to be able to work for that outsourced team. It doesn't matter to me, but a good project management tool, absolutely, that's necessary. You need a good communication tool. In my virtual assistant company that I co-founded with my co-founder Sam Shawson in the Philippines, we were using Slack for communication. We're
Yeah.
switching over to something called Element and giving that a shot. But you need a good communication tool, something that will allow you to keep the communications and keep the history of communications. Email is critical, whether you're using Gmail or, Outlook or whatever anybody is using today. Um, and then, tools that will allow you to collaborate. Many companies have proprietary tools. You need to make sure that they are secure. The other thing that I recommend is if you're going to be doing work that is proprietary, that you do it in a secure network, a Citrix style environment where you have seats that can be allocated and all of the communication and back and forth of files actually only takes place in that server-based environment. I recommend all of those things when we're outsourcing because it's important. Security today is more important than ever,
Yes.
and it's also more easily forgotten than ever because things are so simplified.
I have another question. I'm thinking
Yeah.
from the leader point of view. If I would decide today to outsource, is this happening to you that, for example, there are some requirements that the company has as talking of the vendor? So I would like the vendor to be this way or this way and not to be from here, to be from there, very strict requirement.
Yeah, so I've run across that a lot. I've had people that they didn't want to work with a team in a certain country. Some of that is based in a bias, but a lot of it is really based in their ability to understand the communication that they're receiving. I
Mm.
mean, something as simple as getting on a Zoom call and not understanding the words the other person is saying because their accent is so thick, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've had that. I've had people, listen, I want somebody, that is going to cost me less money, but I want to be able to understand the English that they're speaking. I'm going to devalue you by paying you less for the service that I would pay more for where I'm at, but you better meet me where I'm at with my level of English. It's typical. So you're asking me a lot of questions, and I want to ask you more because again, I've been talking a lot, and I think that you have so much to offer and so much value that you bring, right? So we've been talking about outsourcing and we've been talking about how, companies can utilize that and staying secure. So before a company chooses to scale, which is one of the things that we talk about when we're looking to have them outsource, is it's for scaling, right?
Mm.
Especially in a technical or industrial sector. Talk to me about their go-to-market strategy. How do you make sure that they have a solid go-to-market strategy, and how important is it to actually have one?
A lot of companies are failing when they want to scale because they do not have a go-to-market strategy, which is placed right and made right and spend enough time to really think of every aspect of that strategy. I've seen companies that were big and developed that made go-to-market strategies in a way that they thought, okay, I have already 30 countries where I'm already active. It should be more or less copy-paste. And then the reality hits because it's not. It could be completely different. For example, if we are talking of East Europe, if we are talking of Asia, if we are talking of India, or the landscape is completely different. The habits of buying are completely different. The processes, the stakeholders, everything is completely different. And also, I've seen companies that are they are outsourcing basically the go-to-market strategies to some known partners or even competitors, asking them, okay, we are going to pay you, so you tell us how we should do the business. And I think this is a mistake. And sometimes, yes, it's very good to hire some partners that already have done the job in those countries, or some distributors that can provide information. But at the end of the day, you need to do the work. You need to make the research. You need to do the market reports. You need to analyze the competitor. You need to see the pricing that the market is having. What is the cost of the employees? What are the costs that I can use afterwards for my products and the prices that I can put in the market to be competitive? Is it my product having all the certificates? Oh my God, how many times we had this issue that we went to some countries and then we discovered, oops, we did not consider this simple thing, but still we were selling, or maybe not selling, but we were distributing some products, and then we saw, okay, now we take them back. Now we need to do our research and we do everything right. So I would say it's a large process. It can be done in a very steady way. And yes, you can learn from experience. You can learn once that you did it in one country. If you are smart enough and if you are documenting everything, and if you are saying, okay, this could be different, this could be different, but all these things could be the same and we just need to check them, then it's a much easier process to do.
Yeah, the last thing you ended on there, right? If we just basically do our homework,
Correct.
if we make sure, then we save so many headaches,
Mm.
right? I wish I could get my 12-year-old to recognize that. But if you just do the work, do the homework, and make sure that you're avoiding unintended consequences in your GTM,
Yeah, and
I
of
think
course
then,
there will be surprises. The market, every market has his
yeah.
uncovered things that you cannot foresee before, but at least the most, like you said, the core, the core needs to be well established and to say, yes, this is the right thing for me to do. Or if I know as a company, okay, I'm not ready, I don't know everything, but I am willing to invest. I am willing to learn the market. I am willing to develop the market and all do all this. Then yes, do that. But most of the companies, they want really fast outcomes. If a country is not responsive in 1 year, 2 years, they will kill it. It was not the right country for us. No, it's not that. We did not have the right strategy. We did not do our homework, and we need to be better at this. We need to make the research in order not to spend 2, 3, 4 years with losses and then to discover that, oops, it's not the right market for us.
So real fast, how do you make sure that your customers don't make that critical mistake?
Well, with exactly what I said, we study and we study hard and we do the market research and we do the competitors investigations and we do everything, product specifications, certificates, pricing, everything. There is a process. There are clear steps in the go-to-market strategy. What you need to do is just that you need to spend time to do it on every point, and you need to get all the information. And when you don't have the right information, then you invest to get the right information in the from that market.
See, I wanted to make sure that everybody got that pro sales, that you're the place to make sure that that happens, right?
Thanks.
Because it is so important and it's so easy to overlook. One of the things that, and I'm not opposed to the concept of just getting started, just jumping, just getting out there. I don't have any opposition to that at all. I think there's value in that. But one of the risks, and this happens in the outsourcing world too, one of the risks is, well, let's just go and do it. And you have to pause. This is, and I'm going to bring back my inner strategy podcast for a moment. Okay. One of the things I just talked about this is pause. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, take a breath, take a deep breath, reset, and ask yourself, is what I'm doing what I ought to be doing right now? Is this the right step for me? You don't have to, I mean, you can run and you can move quickly, but you don't have to run unintentionally and you don't have to run and step unwisely. You know, there's a cliff out there somewhere and there's clouds that are covering up the ground, but I'm going to run because I need to run irrespective of whether or not I could fall off the cliff. You have to use your head, prepare, and make sure that what you're doing are the right strategic moves. And you just hit that on the head. And if you're smart about how you do that, and that is going to be true for, you know, whether you're going to market or you're going to an outsourced provider, or you're going to go to the market to buy groceries. Better make your list, because if you shop without your list, what do you end up buying? All
Yeah.
the things that you're hungry for in the moment instead of what you actually need.
Normally, when you are scaling, you make big investments, and you don't want to have this kind of investments without the payoff. It's better to do the things right and to study every aspect of the go-to-market strategy before you jump. It's very
Yeah.
nice to jump. I like adrenaline more than anyone.
Right?
But not when we are talking about money, about investments, about affecting people's life, because you are making employment. And then if that country fails, you need to fire them or they need to do something else. And it's a lot of stress for me as a company, for me as a leader, and for them as employees. Thank you, Scott. I think it's a very nice ending to this talk that we had. I think it's so important that sometimes we just need to pause because, that's the moment when the good ideas, the big ideas are coming. And that's when you go to the next level. And I love to go to the next level. And we should all try to have the vision right and to understand how we can do the mission in this life that we had. Like you were saying, this inner voice needs to be heard and needs to be accomplished. And that's why we are doing what we are doing, because we are loving what we are doing. We are good at what we are doing.
Yep.
And then we see a bigger purpose for this.
Agreed completely. And I will say, so first of all, you're very impressive because you kept me on track the entire time. Usually I talk nonsense like nobody's business, you know. I love the conversation. I think we've touched on a lot of good things. I know we didn't get to touch on all of the things that we, might otherwise have been able to dive into, but the questions are good questions. And as people are looking to build and grow and scale their businesses, they're looking to improve their sales process. They're looking to, maybe they're just in the middle of planning out their go-to-market strategy, or they need to
Mm.
grow and they need to outsource something. Last thing I'll say, I think that, we talked about this the other day. My best example for what outsourcing is dinner, right? You everybody, almost everybody, not everybody, I guess, at some point during the month will decide they want to go out to dinner, whether it's because it's date night or because it's,
Lazy
it's been
night.
a lazy night, yeah, or it's been a long day and they haven't really had time, and so they need to feed the kids, or they're hungry themselves. They go out to eat, and every time they go out to do that, instead of doing it themselves at home, they're outsourcing their food, right? So we make those decisions on a daily basis. The same thing is true of our businesses. We have to make those decisions wisely. We have to make sure that we're making right choices. And when you choose to outsource your dinner, you don't just do it randomly. It's done with intention. You go where you know you're going to get what you're going to get, the quality of it, and to people that you trust. And so I suggest to everybody who's listening, when you're looking for growth, sales, outsourcing, you have a dynamic duo on the screen right now, both of which can help you in our respective rights.
For anyone listening who is ready to scale smart and they want to start some outsourcing, where can they find you or learn about your outsourcing framework?
Sure. So I am all over LinkedIn, Scott Smith. It's actually Scott, the number 8,
Yeah, yeah,
Smith.
I will put on the screen all the information
Perfect.
and
They
also
can find me on LinkedIn.
you
Yeah,
can
my
podcast
website,
web.
Akada Consulting, AKHADA Consulting. And then the other place that I will direct them is, our latest venture, which is related, which is Chatworks, CHATWORX.co. That's the virtual assistant and live chat support company. And have to give that a little plug, Nico, because we're really focused on live chat support. I talked a lot about AI during this conversation. A lot of sites have bots on them that you can interact with, but sometimes to get something done, you just need a real person.
Yeah,
That's where we come in with the live chat support, real people, real results. So thank you. Thanks for the chance to make the plug.
great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and see you to our next video. Bye.
Bye.